games?
The only thing that I can think of is like Minecraft, which is a Java game, and it runs on Linux, Mac, Windows, and Linux, and Steam has come out with this new thing called SteamOS, where it's built, I think it's built on either like Ubuntu or Fedora, where where most of their and a lot of their games are supported. Where you can play their games as their own customized OS built into their ecosystem, and you can play their games. It's called SteamOS. If you want to look at it.
I mean, do that. That's really cool. If you're joining from YouTube, we're going to get started in about 5 minutes. We're going to get underway then, and we'll put the slide deck up, and we'll go through it for some preliminary discussion. We're waiting for a couple stragglers to show up. But there are 0 viewers on YouTube now. You never know what the future is going to be. Someone may watch this video years from now. It's going to be huge in 2017.
I had a guy that I was watching, and it was actually a Java 2D RPG development, and he had like 6 episodes, and I didn't skip to the end. I started at the beginning, and so I made it to the 6th one, and then I realized there wasn't a 7th one, and there were still bugs in the code. So I found the guy, and I looked up his Google Plus account, and I kept digging, and I found his name, and then found him on Facebook, and he kind of shared the same interests in the same country, so I messaged him, and then he finally said, "Oh yeah, I never did finish that project. I think I have it on a disk somewhere." They never could find it, and so I ended up, hours and hours and hours working on this code that I didn't really know what it did because he didn't explain it. And I didn't have a finished project, and so similar to this is what I was thinking. When you make the video and then it comes out there, if it's not complete, that's where people can.
So that did not have a happy ending. That's
No, it did not.
It's always fun.
All right, so I'm going to. All right, so we'll go ahead and get underway. I want to screen share this. I don't need any screen share. Screen share? Oh, there it is. Okay, all right. So welcome to everyone. My name, Rob, do you have a chair? Do you need a chair? I think we're close enough. Or you can leave it open. It might get stuffy. So welcome to everyone. My name is Zach Watts. I'm the group organizer, and I'm the CTO of Mortgage Trade. Mortgage Trade does financial software, and I love it. Financial software is fun. I have a great team. It's a fantastic product. The clients are wonderful. It's a lot of fun. Video games are arguably more fun. And I love video games. I don't get to play them as much as I used to. I used to be able to burn hours and hours and hours in video games, and I still could. I just had family responsibilities and whatnot that kind of take me away from things like that. But video games are really why I'm here today and why I'm in the role I am. And I put up some of these cheesy books, but that book with the big blue monster on it actually got me really interested in computers. I was buying shareware in stores when stores used to sell computer software. I saw it on the shelf, and I spent too much money for it, and I read it cover to cover, and that got me interested in game programming and in virtual reality. There was a fad back in the mid-90s called VRML. That was kind of an HTML 3D markup thing, and then eventually into actual programming. It just went from there. In college, the people who were honest, all of the people that I knew in my computer science program were there either because they initially wanted to make video games or because of the movie Hackers, which a few of them would actually admit to. And so it's good. Video game development, building video games is a fantastic way to learn about computers. It's very visual, it's very visceral, and it's just fun. This is good. So this is the North Mississippi Technology Group. We've been doing this since 2010. We're up to 275 members, and this is our 40th meetup, which is surprising to me. I didn't realize we had met that frequently, but this is actually number 40. The goal is always to learn, to share our knowledge with each other, and to meet and network. So there are, hi, come on in. And if we need to pull up a chair for you, I think we are going to need some additional chairs. Rob, can you help track some of those down? Thank you. So there's the new focus of the group for 2016 is on education and collaboration, right? So there are a number of things to learn and to share knowledge and to network with each other. But the idea now that I want to pursue are a series of related topics, right? So instead of just one-offs, we've had fantastic meetings in the past. Cryptography, databases, right, might be the next. An intro to programming might be the next one, and then maybe virtual reality. And it's really interesting. But I hope that by having a series of related topics together, we might have a little bit more meat to kind of sink our teeth into. And it gives you more of an opportunity to collaborate and to participate if you want to. So we're going to build a video game. And you can participate just as if you just want to watch, that's fine. If you want to dive in there and actually build some assets, that's fine, to whatever level you want. And we're also streaming all this stuff on YouTube as well. So it's going to be out there, and so that it can be accessed later. And if you can't catch it or whatever, you can tune in. It's live stream, and then once the stream's over, the video's out. I've also created an entrepreneurship group I want to mention to you briefly. So this is a technology group. I'm doing it for over 5 years now. It's great because it brings people who are excited about technology together. They can learn about it, they can share, and it's been wonderful. I want to do the same thing for business and entrepreneurship. So if you're interested in business and startups and entrepreneurship and learning about that, we're going to have a group that does that as well. It's going to meet monthly. I just created this. I think it's like 3 members now. Everyone is welcome, and I'm really hoping that there's some potential collaboration between the groups. So maybe if someone has a great business idea in an entrepreneurship group, maybe they can shop that around to the technology group, and you guys can get together and make that go. Or if you have an idea for a business or a product that you want to get out to the market, it might be a way to actually connect with people who are more on the business side and maybe able to connect you with investors. And it doesn't cost a dime, just like this group. So this is a video game development series. This is a new thing that we're trying, and I hope that when this series is over, maybe we do another series. Maybe we do a series on building business apps or building robots or whatever, right? Something kind of ambitious that's going to take a while to learn. So we want to build a video game from scratch. You're going to decide the content of this. When we're done here today, we're gonna talk a lot today about different types of video games, the sort of video game that we'd like to create. We're going to send out a survey monkey and to the entire group, and based on that survey monkey, we're going to determine the sort of game that we're going to build in this series. All of the stuff that gets made, the source code and artifacts and all that, are going to be available. You have a GPL them, and they'll be out on the meetup site, so you'll be able to download them, just do whatever you want to with them. And as I said, you can participate to any degree you like. You can be very involved or not at all, and it's not going to hurt my feelings either way. So some stuff that we're going to learn in this series, we're going to learn how to make a game. And I put up here programming using C#.NET. There was a question about Java. I'm familiar with Unity and C#.NET. So those are the tools that I'm going to go to. If someone really knows the Unreal Engine, or someone is a master of Java game development, then this series might go in that direction. Right now, the tools that I'm familiar with and I'm comfortable sharing is going to revolve around Unity and C#.NET. We're going to learn how to make 3D models from scratch. So that cool werewolf with the spikes, if you can sketch it out on paper and kind of generally know what it might look like, we're going to learn how to build that in 3D out of nothing. We're going to learn how to skin it, how to rig it with bones, how to animate it, the whole works. We're also going to learn how to texture it. So we're going to be using some 2D image editing tools like Photoshop to make it look realistic. We're going to figure out how to take that game content that we create and push it to multiple platforms, including mobile devices. And I say maybe, if the group wants to, we can learn about augmented and virtual reality. We'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. So why video games? Well, someone had mentioned earlier, it's a great way to get experience with different technologies, right? So you may work in banking software and you don't get to play with 3D all the time. So building a video game is a fantastic way to get exposed to some different technologies. And it is a wonderful way to challenge yourself and put yourself out of that environment, right? It's also fun. Making video games is really fun. Being able to see something come to life with images and sound and be able to interact with it, it's really rewarding. And this gets a little bit philosophical, but it's a way to create value. And I think that's ultimately what my goal is, right? Might as well do that. I'm here, right? Make something of value. You could make a painting or write a novel or create a business or whatever, right? So creating a video game is a way to create something of value. You might be able to monetize that, but even if not, if it's valuable, it's going to improve someone's life. And so you can put it out there and make someone happy. All right, so I'll address this because there's a perception that I can't make video games, right? Video games are really, really hard. I'm not that good at programming, or I am good at programming, but it's doing database applications or whatever, and I just wouldn't know where to begin. And so maybe we can make a really simple game, like a ball rolling down a hill or something, and it just gets to the bottom and you win. I don't know. Game programming was once extremely difficult. Those books that I showed you, one of them had a really poorly animated cover with some weird, like, monsters or something. I remember how difficult that book was to follow, because back in the mid-90s, if you were going to do video game programming, you were writing a lot of assembly, right, to actually render that stuff out. Since then, it has gotten easier and easier and easier. So if you can build a business application, you can program a game. Trust me, you absolutely can. In fact, some of the games we're going to be looking at, potentially building, are easier than many business applications that I've worked on. Building a game from scratch, don't get me wrong, building a 3D engine is still really hard. Okay? It's really hard, and it's kind of a rarefied level. But using tools that people have built to create those games is really quite accessible. The hardest thing for video games for a lot of technical people isn't the programming, it's not the physics or anything like that, it's the art assets, right? It's the music, the sounds, and the graphics, and the characters. And for a lot of us who have technical skills, we don't know where to start from that, and you've told yourself, I'm not artistic, I can't do art. And you're lying to yourself, you absolutely can. Art is not easy. Building artistic assets isn't easy. It's not easy for the people who are artists either. Now, it's true that some people have a natural inclination to that, but it's a lot like people who think they're not good at math. You may not be naturally good at math, but you haven't worked really hard to get good at math, right? Then you may not want to, and that's fine. But if you want to build an art asset, if you want to learn how to do 3D modeling, if you want to learn how to do texturing, you absolutely can. It's just not going to be easy. You're not going to pick it up and in a day be an expert at it. You're going to have to work at it, just as you've worked with the skills that you currently have. But don't think for a moment you can't do it. And so we're going to tackle that directly. We're going to see how to use these art asset tools, how to build models, how to do texturing. I don't know how to make a game. Has anyone ever heard of GoldenEye 64? Fantastic game. I wasted so much time, or invested so much time, and my grades suffered for it. 8 million copies sold, $250 million revenue. That was back when games weren't that big a deal, right? And it won a bunch of stuff: console game of the year, interactive title of the year, et cetera, et cetera. It was selected as one of 80 titles to go in the Art of Video Games exhibit in the Smithsonian Art Museum. I cribbed all of this directly from Wikipedia. It was developed by amateurs. 8 of the 10 developers had never worked on a game before. And they didn't know how hard what they were doing was. They just went into it. It took them a couple of years, and they built something that is absolutely amazing. So don't think because you haven't worked on video games, you can't actually make something amazing. I think it's very likely that you can make something really outstanding by not having that experience. You don't know what you don't know. You'll just do something that you think is neat that may be a completely different type of game that might really resonate. with your audience. So for our purposes, what is a video game? Well, I'm saying it's something fun with a goal, right? You can build a lot of things with video game technology that isn't necessarily a video game. We have 3D technology, we can do texturing and whatnot, so I could make an aquarium with really realistic fish that swim around. That in itself, I'm saying, is not really a video game because it's not really a game, right? Now, we're going to talk about a lot of genres, and we're just going to go through them and get an idea of the sorts of types of video games that we can make. And like music genres, most games don't fit into one category, right? You have metal, pop, folk, fusion, rap, whatever, right? So you can think of a lot of games that mix genres or kind of in between. So let's just look at some of them. So these are the more popular ones, right? So platformer. Probably everyone in here has played a platformer game of some sort, right? The kind of archetype is Mario Brothers. Two-dimensional, and you play the game mostly by jumping from platform to platform, and you got some monsters who are usually out to get you, and there's some goal. You're trying to get to the end of a level or achieve some goal. This other game is called Fez, which is a platformer, but it's turned on its head. It's a three-dimensional, two-dimensional game. So it's a two-dimensional game that you can rotate as you need to. It's hard to explain. You can watch a YouTube video and it'll make perfect sense. Just an example of even with a tried and true genre, you can add a new mechanic into it and generate completely different gameplay. Shooters are obviously a very popular category. Here I'm really thinking in terms of military shooters. Usually the player interacts with this world by spraying bullets at it. Popular ones right now, I guess, are Battlefront and Call of Duty. They tend to have a reputation for being violent, but they're not all violent. There's been a few through the years that have done paintball. There was one back for the NES that did paintballs. They shot people with paintballs. And I think there's a new one called Splatoon or something, which is also paintballs. It can be, a lot of times they're first person. They don't necessarily have to be. Shoot 'em ups. So think Space Invaders, think any little spaceship where you're blowing up, you know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of enemy spaceships and you got bullets flying everywhere. Those are pretty fun and pretty accessible. You know, if we wanted to build something like that, we absolutely could with the technology and time we have available. Adaptations of boards and card games, right? The venerable Solitaire. This is a game called Battle Chess, which I was obsessed with my 286 back in the day. Battle Chess was an absolute masterpiece, and I think it's Interplay. I may be wrong about that. And it's great. So it's a new take on an old idea. It's chess, but the players come to life. Well, chess pieces come to life, and they kill each other, right? When you take a piece. And my favorite one was the Rook, who's obviously this castle thing, turns into a big rock monster. And if you take a queen with a rook, he just eats her. He just picks her up, eats her. And it's a great game. Fighting games, so Mortal Kombat, Smash Brothers, Tekken, you know, that's a pretty established genre. Role-playing games, there's World of Warcraft and Skyrim. There are a few genres I'm going to say are probably just off limits to us based on the amount of time it takes to develop a game like that. Role-playing games are one of them. It's not a technological limitation. It's the amount of time you have to invest in order to make a even small full-feature role-playing game. Unless you guys, someone, you know, has actually built them and can tell me differently. I mean, you guys bear with me. Okay, I think I'm back. So, simulation, you guys ever played SimCity? You guys do like I did and just you get bored about halfway through and release the tornadoes and nuclear explosions, and I don't think I ever actually finished a game of SimCity. And flight sims, tank sims. Those are also pretty involved. Again, not really from a technological standpoint, but just a creation of assets. But if you want to do a somewhat simpler simulation game, you probably could do that. There have been a number of really interesting ones over the years. Like I remember like Sim Ants and stuff. Strategy. So Civilization, or if you guys ever played StarCraft, right? Either real time or turn-based, where you build up your forces and try to take on another player. Sports games. Not a whole lot of explanations. I don't think we're going to be able to do sports games either. The simple ones have been done just absolutely to death. And you're really limited as to what you can do in a sports game because the rules are fine, unless you take a new take on it. I remember when, for the Genesis, there was a Mutant League Football, I think. You remember this game? So it was awesome. It was football, except it was zombies and stuff. And so you had special powers and whatnot. You turned into a werewolf. That's pretty cool. Logic and puzzle games. So Myst is an absolute masterpiece. Think Tetris. Think any game like that where you're kind of solving through a puzzle. Puzzle games tend to be very light from a technical perspective. It doesn't require usually a lot of technology to a puzzle game. Most of the hard part is actually creating the puzzle mechanic itself in the win condition, because you're inventing a new game, or you just clone something that's already out there and it's already done. Music games, Guitar Hero, right, Rocksmith, Rockman, all of those. I think those have kind of waned in popularity for a while. They were a huge fad. And then I just said casual games, right? Now these are just my categories. I created a lot of these from Wikipedia, but these are just my categories. You can find a lot of games that don't fit into one of these categories, and you can go on and on and on about the categories I've left out. But again, just like music. Casual games are generating a lot of the money these days. So your Angry Birds and your Candy Crushes and whatnot, they tend to be relatively simple to implement and fairly simple to play as well. You can pick them up, you put them down, you can play them when you're in line at the grocery store, and they're very accessible. So before we move on, have I left out any major genres you want to talk about? Any of your favorite games that don't necessarily fit into one of those buckets?
Survival horror.
Survival. You know, I left out racing. I've got a picture of a race car. I guess that's simulation, maybe a little bit.
Turn-based
Turn-based what?
strategy.
Okay.
Plus, that was one of those the card games and the puzzles too.
Survival horror was actually a genre, and I kind of left out adventure too because that's so open-ended. What is that? Any of those genres can be done in 2D or 3D, and you may think that 2D is easier than 3D, and maybe that was right some time ago. I think 3D is actually easier, but I'm not an artist, so it would be very difficult for me to draw little Mario there, because I'm terrible at things like perspective and shading and all of that, right? It's pretty easy, or easier though, for me to model Mario in 3D, painstakingly moving vertices around, kind of trial and error until I get them looking right, and then posing them like that, and letting the computer figure out all the perspective and shading and whatnot, right? So you can have a game that is inherently 3D that you could not do in 2D, or you can take a 2D game and use 3D assets on it. And that's actually how a lot of 2D games are done now. You create a 3D asset, and then the 2D game actually just locks the camera down so that you can't look around, but it's actually a 3D asset that you're looking at. It's being animated. And then I mentioned that we would talk more about this. So augmented and virtual reality. This isn't, you don't make a game with virtual reality. It is not a game in and of itself. It's just technology that might help you build one, right? So virtual reality, I've been saying, is going to be the next big thing since I was like 13, and I've been wrong ever since then. And I don't understand why it didn't really happen, because it was going to happen. It was going to happen. There were going to be affordable virtual reality headsets everywhere, and it was going to be great. And it just never really happened. I think it has some opportunity to happen now with technologies like Google Cardboard, though. We've done a meetup on Google Google Cardboard, but it's a very inexpensive little $10 piece of cardboard with plastic glasses that you can buy anywhere on Amazon, whatever. And you load up some special software on your smartphone, and you toss your smartphone into the box. The box is a visor, and you put it to your head, and it's pretty convincing immersive virtual reality. It's actually really cool. It's really cheap, and since everyone has a smartphone, it's very accessible. The technologies that we're going to be looking at can export it to Google Cardboard. So if you want to make an augmented or a virtual reality game, you can do so. There are some downsides, though. Even the little bit that I did with it gave me a splitting head. So the technology is close, and maybe with something like Oculus Rift and whatnot, we'll get there. But I wouldn't want to play a full-featured game for extended periods of cardboard. Augmented reality, I think, works a bit better and is a bit more accessible. So augmented reality, you take your smartphone and it uses a camera, and you look at the world through your smartphone camera, and by using some tricks, software is able to overlay usually 3D objects on top of that, right? So here you have a picture of a gentleman with a tablet, and in front of him here, there's nothing at all, but when he looks at this, he actually sees a building that's floating there, right? So there have been some really cool games made with augmented reality. So you can think of a game like if you were going to make a tank combat game, you got little tanks rolling around, you could do that so when you looked at the table with your smartphone, you'd actually see the tanks on the table and they would be shooting each other and whatnot. So you think of this as ways to kind of spice up or enhance a game that we might want to make, right? So if we have an idea for a puzzle game, you can do a puzzle game straight up on a phone, or you can do an augmented reality puzzle game with some of the same mechanics, but you actually interact with it in real space by like moving tokens around or something, right? So something to think.
Yes, but I don't think FCC's network works.
You never let us have any fun.
But I actually VPN server that I used to like plug your games through my dad's office. So